Hey everybody, Bonehead from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to the monthly meta. So every month we get together and we have a look at two things in Blood Bowl. We have a look at what's legal and what's lethal. So we're going to go through all of the various rules and accessories that are available for Blood Bowl right now. So if you're just starting out, you're just coming back, you're going to start attending tournaments, you're going to join or run a local league, we'll give you the full rundown of everything that's available for Blood Bowl, what you're likely to see used, what you're not likely to see used. And then secondly, we're going to have a look at competitive play. So tournaments, constructed Blood Bowl. We're going to have a look at what's lethal. So who's doing well and why. So hopefully you can kind of get to grips with what teams to expect, what teams to fear, and how to kind of adjust the meta to beat them. So first up, what's legal? There's a ton of individual pieces of rules that are available for Blood Bowl right now, so it's good to have a little rundown to kind of get together with everything. Nothing's been released in the last month except a whole bunch of previews, but we'll come to that in a second. So right now, we've got a stable-ish format. So we're looking at format 2020-12A. So we've got the Blood Bowl 2020 rulebook. In that, you've got something like 21 teams. 21 teams. You've got a ton of star players. You've got almost everything you need to play the game in that book. There's only one other accessory to get you to the point where you've got basically everything you need, and that is Spike 11, the Necromantic Spike. I maintain that that is the best spike they've done so far. Realistically, if you are going to be running Necromantic team, you only need the rulebook. But there is a couple of star players in the Necromantic book that you will not have access to otherwise. We've got Frankenstein, we've got Bryce the Slice, and I'm sure there's a third one that I'm missing out. Oh my goodness, Wilhelm Chaney. So three great star players there for the Necromantic team. And the human team, actually. Frankenstein can play for them. Which are only available in Spike 11. So if you want to maximize your roster building potential for a Necromantic or Undead team, you're going to need to pick up Spike 11. Spike 12 is a great read, but there's nothing in there that you need. So there's some extra rules for balls and things like that. Now the great thing about the Spike magazines is they've got loads of background, and if you're interested in the world of Blood Bowl, then actually they're great to just chill out and read. They'll inspire you. You can see about some other famous teams. They've got some reasonable tactics documentaries in there as well. Documentaries? Articles, Ben. Too much content, clearly. So those are the two Spike magazines that are out right now for this edition. There is a Spike 13 coming, which is very exciting. Now, on top of that, there's the Teams of Legend PDF from Games Workshop. So there's 21 teams in the 2020 rulebook, and there's another 6 teams here in the Teams of Legend PDF. Link is in the details below. Amazons, High Elves, Tomb Kings, Vampires, Chaos Dwarves, and Norse. So 6 awesome teams, very unique teams that have yet to be updated to 2020 standards. So they've got the 2020 rules. This is from Games Workshop, so these teams are going to be kept alive. And I think coming up this weekend, there's made to order for Amazons and Tomb Kings. So if you are expecting those teams to get updated reasonably soon, I wouldn't count on it. But if you want to pick up a Games Workshop team, you can do so. Although I do recommend having a look at some of the other third-party teams for those particular teams, because if you want to run them, it gives you a chance to go and find something that you really like. There's also Acorn. Acorn is a teeny tiny star player. He is a frenzied squirrel, essentially. Comes with the Tree Man kit, and in White Dwarf 458, which you can go buy digitally, you'll find the rules for Acorn. Acorn is often not allowed at tournaments. I'm not entirely sure why. We've played with him and he's just fine. He's strength 1 frenzy. It's a fun little angle to take. Now, we've also got the NAF tournament guidelines. So the NAF is essentially a players' union for Blood Bowl. They make sure that all tournament stats are tracked. It's pretty cool. It's a very geeky place. I recommend it. They've put together the tournament guidelines for the past 7,000 years, and they've done it again for this edition. And on the one hand, it's a cool way to just make sure that things are standardized, but mostly the tournament guidelines are there for 2 extra teams that we used to have in the old edition. Slann, which are essentially space frogmen, okay? Their whole deal is that everybody bounces around. Everyone leaps or uses pogo stick in the new rules. So it's quite a cool team because they can just teleport from 1 square to 2 squares away, and it makes a really unique way of playing. Now, the other one is a very interesting one right now, and we're going to come to the full details behind why in a second, and that is because it is the Demons of Khorne team, which is incredibly frenzy focused. You get a big dude, the Bloodthirster. All your linemen are basically just blocker guys with frenzy. They've got no block, they've just got frenzy. It's a really interesting frenzy mash of a team that Games Workshop seems to have kind of taken on board. There's also the May FAQ errata. Now we'll be expecting another one in November. But that one does detail a few changes to some skills, so definitely a couple of things to watch out. The way Hail Mary works. It will not work the way you want it to, and it is very sad. Then we come to the additional fun stuff. Okay, we've got Death Zone. Now, if you like Blood Bowl, pick up Death Zone. It is a chunky book full of a ton of extras. You've got loads of inducements, you've got stadiums, you've got special balls, there's weather tables, there's special events, there's giants, there's sevens, there's extra wizards. Basically, if you like this channel because you like nonsense rules for Blood Bowl and just more fun ways to play, Death Zone is actually an absolutely cracking read. I do recommend it. And if you're playing at home, if you're playing in a league that's less competitive, you want to chuck out some random rules and just have a lot of fun, Death Zone is definitely a great place to do it. Now, there's the special play cards and pitches. So as Games Workshop are releasing these, they are coming out with packs of special play cards, which you can use. So there's the generic ones and there's all the other ones. It's up to you. They're quite fun to add a bit of variance, but they are incredibly swingy. So if you are looking for a more balanced environment, don't use the special play cards. If you are looking for a great narrative event, then definitely play with the special plays. There's some great stuff in there. Some of the pitches have special rules as well. And again, you've got the Death Zone pitches rules, you've got the actual pitches rules. So if you want to have an immersive experience, I do recommend just playing with some pitch rules, playing with some special cards, and you're going to build a really cool story. If you are planning to take your Skaven team against their Wood Elf team and win by a margin, I would probably stay away from this. It may not be for you. And also, there's some cool rules in White Dwarf 466 to have referees on the pitch. They wander around, it's easier to foul the further away you are from the referee, and you can take the referee out, which means no one gets sent off. It's really cool, really thematic. If you want to have a decent breakdown of how the referee rules, there was a Theory Thursday a few weeks ago where we looked at them in detail and kind of played them through. There's a ton of great stuff out there for Blood Bowl, and it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for a one-off match with a load of fun, this stuff here is excellent. If you want to tweak your league, adding a bit, if you want to build a tournament and add something special, Death Zone, special play cards, there's a load of stuff you can do. Pick one or two things you really like, build your theme around it, and you'll end up with something really unique and really fun. And we've got some stuff to look forward to, which is pretty cool. So we've got a Khorne team coming up. So if you've been watching the channel for a while, you would have seen the last couple of weeks. We did a podcast breaking down the positionals that we've seen so far. Yesterday, we saw another star player release. So we've got potentially a couple of really cool months coming for Blood Bowl. I say potentially. Now, while the Khorne team is a standard Games Workshop release, and we'll see it released alongside Spike 13, which is going to be very exciting, that I expect to see land in November, kind of middle of November time. The star players they've revealed, we've got Scylla and Fingrim, who is essentially a big mutated beast, okay, of a dude. We've got Max Spleen Ripper, who is the Chaos Chainsaw guy, and we've got the Verminator, which was spoiled yesterday, which is Creek Rust Gouger, which is essentially a cybernetically enhanced rat ogre with a ball and chain. Now, really cool star players coming out. We've seen some of the rules of the Verminator. Max is going to be standard chainsaw kind of stuff, and Scylla, I'm intrigued to see. He was a big old bruiser in the last edition. So these star players are going to land. We are hoping and maybe expecting that they're going to land in Spike 13. The Verminator I wasn't sure of, but you guys have pointed out that actually the article says he's got the favoured of skill set. So that Khorne team, if it lands, and if it lands with Spike 13, these star players are likely to be in that book. However, we're still waiting for the Ram Rider from the standard rulebook, and we have got a few other star players that we haven't seen fleshed out just yet or released. So looking at you, Bryce the Slice Campbell. So there's some stuff we're still waiting on from Games Workshop. So I would be pretty surprised if we saw these guys released before Christmas. We might get one. It seems like they're a bit back-ordered, but as long as we get the Khorne team soon, I'll be very happy. So on to what's lethal, so which teams are doing well and why. But before we move on, we do just want to say, please stay safe wherever you're playing. I know that there's some places like in Australia that are still in lockdown, but regardless, stay safe, look after yourself, be polite, be courteous, be hygienic. We've got tournaments back. We lost them for a really long time, so do everything you can to enjoy them as much as you can, but be as safe as you can as well, because we want to keep enjoying tournaments and we want as many people as possible to feel like they can come along and have a great time playing Blood Bowl. So, the last few episodes we put the stats together ourselves. However, Mike Davies, who is the ex-president of the NAF, is a massive data head. I love it so much. And what he's done is taken all of the stats from all of the recorded competitive games from Blood Bowl 2020 into a Tableau. Now, I will remember to put the link into this one, so I think I missed it for a while last time, so my bad. It's a very cool data set. We were building the same thing, but actually, he's just got better access and done it, quite frankly, much better, and it's awesome. So we get to take a bit of a deep dive to see which teams in a tournament setting are doing the best, and we can kind of talk about why. Now, before we go into the big data set itself, good job, Ben, we're going to have a look at some of the top teams before we do. And we have to start here with the undisputed champs. So Underworld have just taken an absolute beasting. They've just gone from being a bit of a garbage team to just being almost unstoppable. We can see here Underworld are landing at a 62% win rate. So that is almost every loss they suffer, they'll win 2 games. Now, let's talk about Underworld for a second. First of all, the roster got boosted with the addition of a Rat Ogre, but those Snotlings, regardless of which big guy you're running, the ability to use swarming means that you are playing with 12, 13 players on the pitch at any time. And those Snotlings, although they're 15k, if you've been watching the Bonehead Championship, you'll know this, they are underrated players. You can put one Snotling on one Morg, and it's going to really struggle to destroy the Snotling. That sidestep means you can just bounce them around. So they're 15k and they will distract 300k of opponent. Okay, then you maximize your TVOP, your team value on pitch, or team value in play at that point. Because one Snotling for 15k that you don't even need to use as one of your starting 11 can take away one of their best players, or at least distract them, tag them, force them to make some activations to clear the path from that one Snotling. They're still playing 10 on 11 with your core team. And if the Snotling dies, no one cares. And the great thing about this is it combos really well with the Rat Ogre as well, because you can just feed the Snotling to the Rat Ogre. The Rat Ogre has Animal Savagery, which means if it fails its activation, it either boneheads and stares into space and loses its tackle zone, or it punches a friendly dude. If you've got Snotlings ready to go, you can just get them punched. And you know what? No one's going to care. Sorry, Snotlings, it's a tough life. But quite frankly, you're there to be beaten up. You're there to be fed. As a Skaven coach, it's something I'm very happy with. Feeding the poor run-of-the-mill runts of the litter to the enemy is a great way to do it. So Underworld get to do that. But they've also got the best thrower in the game, potentially, almost, with the Skaven thrower, who's also throwing to one of the best scoring threats in the game, the Gutter Runner. Now, passing just got better between those two. You don't have the opportunity for the old school Gutter Runner throw, but actually, old school Underworld only had a Gutter Runner for 6 weeks, and no one was allowed to play. So we've not missed that. So we've gone straight from a place where Underworld were cool and a bit of a grind, to now they've got a massive upgrade in their thrower. They've got a massive upgrade in their catcher. And the team itself kind of just gets cheaper. It kind of just works better. You've got those Snotlings to make it more powerful. Hilarious, right? But realistically, one of the biggest tweaks that Underworld got was the change from old Glart and Skitter to Hackflem and whatever the heck else they want. They don't need anything else, all right? You've got a Rat Ogre to murder stuff. Taking Glart is great. Hackflem is just an incredible scoring threat. So I ran him in Sand Bowl 3. I was running Snotlings, but still took Hackflem, and he just walked into 2 tackle zones, picked up the ball, walked out of 2 tackle zones, and scored a touchdown. It was just basically a couple of 4+s and a 2+, whatever. It was just outrageous. He just means that when you play to your outs, you always have a chance to win. And sometimes that's going to work. So not only do you have a big guy upgrade, now regardless of whether you're a troll, a stoic troll conservatist, or you're running the new Rat Ogre, the Snotling's going to make it better. You've got more dudes to throw, you've got more dudes to babysit your really stupid Animal Savagery pieces. Plus, those swarming pieces are just going to distract your opponent's players, forcing them to make activations. Your core set of players got a little bit better as well. The thrower got better. The fact you got a Gutter Runner now instead of the other Blitzer is fine, because that other Blitzer role can be filled out by the Rat Ogre, or you pick up Glart, who's got cheaper, and then you finish off with the fact that you can take Hackflem, and that's basically all at 1100. The more you add, the more you get. So Underworld are an absolute bargain from a team value point of view, and they are such a challenge to fight. And we're going to see how the how the stats of the rest of the teams marry up in a second. Anyway, on to our second team of the week. And I never thought I would be talking about High Elves to the level that I am these days. So Blood Bowl 2020 landed, High Elves were released in the Teams of Legend PDF, that's what the little asterisk means. And they were fine. They're just kind of up agility humans or up armored pro elves like with a few less skills. They looked fine, they looked standard. Then they started to outperform in 7s, okay? Now that made sense for the meta in 7s because you can only take up to 4 positionals. So if you've got spare cash, if your positionals are more expensive, it doesn't really matter. So it kind of made sense that High Elves had the edge there. But they have been delivering in 11s, and they are, from a top-down view, quite a bland team. But actually, they're sitting in tier 2, they've got a ton of potential, and they don't have that fallibility of a vulnerable armor score. Okay, their linemen being armor 9+ means that they are as resilient as Dark Elves. They don't have all the block, but they do have more speed and a much better thrower. So you take a team like the High Elves, and because of just the way they run, and remember, this is in a world where everyone says that agility teams are a no-go anymore, they are delivering at 56%. Now, we'll look at the chart in a second, but you'll appreciate, actually, that is a significant chunk of wins. So, actually, the High Elves, from a competitive form, although they've only played something like 200 matches, they've got the second highest win percentage in Blood Bowl right now from a tournament point of view. So, there's no Games Workshop High Elf team. I can't remember when we had the last made to order for High Elves, probably within the last 6 months, so we can kind of bank on them not being released for another year or so. So if you are looking for a High Elves, now is a good time. They're doing well in the meta. They've got a good core base to build. They're not a star heavy team, okay? They don't have they're too expensive for it. But actually, if you took a team and you could pay 10-20k to make each one of the players better, why would you not? And that's essentially what we've done here with the High Elf team. And assuming you can get a decent skill set, a couple of blodging dudes and you're away, a couple of dodging catches and you are away. They do lack that Nerves of Steel game, but actually that's only going to happen once or twice a game. So if you have to dodge away and move up and then do the pass, probably going to be alright. So High Elves, doing really well. I'm surprised by it. Actually the number 2 team in Blood Bowl. And the third team of the week has got to be our top performing stunty team. Now this is really close, but Ogres are sitting there at a 50% win rate. Now this is the Bonehead podcast. We love Bonehead, we love ogre stuff. And I love the fact that the Ogres have the best win percentage of a stunty team. Now they've got less matches than Halflings. Halflings are sitting at 49%. But still, that's such a great place to be. In the olden times, the stunty teams would be sitting down in the 30s, 40s, okay? They'd be fine, you know, winning 1 in every 3 matches, maybe 2 in every 5. Now, the fact that you can go toe-to-toe with a team and half the time you're going to win is huge. Now, remember, this is constructed format. This is tournament, okay? So, what we're seeing with Ogres is a lot of Griff Ogrewold build, okay? And you know what? That's awesome. You can take Morg, probably don't need him, but that Griff or Carla angle in this team gives you a great ball carrier, gives you that agility and that speed and that skill as well. So you can take essentially 4, 5, strength 5 mighty blow pieces, a ton of cheap dudes as well, and then run 1 or 2 of the best star players out there in the game. And it forms a really cool sub team. Ogres are great. They are a challenge, and that's part of the fun of them. What they do, and the same with Halflings to be fair, you get this blank canvas to build a star player team around them. So you can be like, I'm going to run Griff and Carla at a tournament. Are you going to run it in a Halfling shell? Are you going to run it in an Ogre shell? Whichever shell you give them, they've got a pretty good win percentage. And Noblars, again, great players, underrated. I love the combination of Ogres being able to smash the heck out of stuff. That mighty blow is just going to keep on hitting. And those Noblars being, again, 15k, don't have swarming, but you do have a ton of them because you can normally take Riotous Rookies as well. They're just going to bounce around. Nothing in the world is funnier than a Bloodthirster taking on a Snotling or a Noblar and just being sidestepped away. It's hilarious. And it is sneaky. It's a sneaky win. But Ogres are cheap enough to be able to sneak someone like Griff. Now, say what you want about the model and the fact that the helmet instructions are wrong. The player is awesome. And anytime you get a chance to run Griff, you kind of can't look back. Okay, so it's data set time. So we've got NAF tournament games with Blood Bowl 2020. How many games played and with what win success? So I tell you what, let's move that. Now that's fine. We've got plenty of scope here. So what we've got up on the screen, you can see here, we've got Underworld at the top and you've got Goblins at the bottom. We've got a spread. Now this is a really well put together tableau, and I again have put the link in the show notes so you can go and explore and have a look at some of the other stuff. But this is the slide that we're going to be focusing on today. And we're going to go through it as quickly as we can. I mean, the first thing you can see is Underworld are just absolute garbage miles ahead of everybody else. All right, you can see the ton of space they've clearance here, which is just absolutely appallingly shocking and terrifying, but also pretty cool. It's nice to see Underworlds take that jump. 62% is actually quite a jump though, so definitely something to be considering. So we're looking at 62% win percentage with 644 games. Not only are they the top winningest team, they are also one of the most played. Dwarves 687, Shambling Undead 655, Orcs 675, Black Orcs 651. So basically they are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th most placed team, most played, and the #1 most winningest, which is just absolutely phenomenal. If you look at the difference here, so Dwarves are sitting at 55, 687 games played with Dwarves, which is, I think, really surprising. So we look at the top 5 teams from how they win. You've got Underworld here, 62% with 644 games. Now the next closest team is 56% win rate, which is the High Elves. Now we've already talked through the High Elves. There's only 172 games logged. So 56% of 172, you're probably looking at about, what, 95 games won? So 95 wins with High Elves and 300, I don't know, maybe 400 wins with Underworld. So the fact that the High Elves, though, are still rocking a 56%, I mean, nearly 200 games played, that takes it more than just spiking, okay? You have to spike a lot of tournaments to make that difference. Next up team would be the Dwarves and the Chaos Dwarves at 55% apiece. Now, Dwarves sitting at 687 is a ton of games played. They are the most played game, the most played team in Blood Bowl. Chaos Dwarves there at 481. Let's talk about why Dwarves. Okay, there's a couple of really cool Chaos Dwarf Kickstarters coming soon. Games Workshop, I kind of thought this might be the point where they released them. We started to see some star players for Chaos. This is not the time, so that's fine. That's okay. But if you look at just the win percentage here of these two, Chaos Dwarves 481 played. All right, they are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th most played team. All right, and they are a team of legend team. They've got a ton of flexibility, but the thing that links up Chaos Dwarf and Dwarf and their 55% win percentage is their fact that they are free-rolled so much tackle. When the #1 team is dodge heavy, and it is super dodge heavy, even if the goal there is not to run around and fly around, the whole team has got dodge. Goblins have got dodge, Snotlings have got dodge, Hackflem has got dodge, the Gutter Runner's got dodge. The only people without dodge is the big guy, the lineman, the thrower, and the blitzer. Everybody else on that team has dodge. So just having tackle free-rolled into your standard lineman without having to burn any skills to your tournament set just absolutely deflates that team. It'd be cool to see some head-to-head matchups actually between Dwarves, Chaos Dwarf and Underworld, because I think the fact we're seeing Chaos Dwarf and Dwarf so high up is because they have that absolutely tangible benefit there. So third most team is the Amazons at 53% with 317 games. So the top 5, Underworld and Amazons, are dodge heavy to the max. All right, actually all of Amazon is dodgy. High Elves, you're going to see a little bit of dodge. That's really interesting to see. Underworld, Amazons, dodge heavy. They don't dodge with Amazons, but they've got dodge. Chaos Dwarf and Dwarf tackle heavy. You've got that kind of intertwining of the meta, and then you've got High Elves sitting in the middle who are just like, yeah, I'm just going to dodge around 2+, got decent armor, going to do decent stuff. So we've got the bash in Chaos Dwarf and Dwarf. We've got the dash in Underworld, and depending on how you play Amazons, I mean, Amazons are really more of a bash team, but they're kind of mid-range, and High Elves, who are the ubiquitous mid-range team. They are so good at everything, and I will be printing some heads out to adjust an Elven Union team so I can run them as High Elves, because I want to see what all this fuss is about. So that's the top 5 performing teams. Let's have a look at the teams that have played the most. Underworld. You know what? That's not surprising. Dwarf, Shambling Undead, Orc, Human. and Black Orc. So generally speaking, dwarves, bash team, shambling undead, more bash, orc, more bash, human, mid-range, black orc, bash. So you've got heavy bash stat here. You've got lizardmen, which are definitely a hybrid team. They are both at once, okay? That's what makes them so terrifyingly powerful. 50% win rate, though. They're as good as ogres. Think about that for a second. Surely not. Crazy. Anyway, 622 games played. Halfling, 602 games played. And Necro Horror at 559. We've got Dark Elves at 499, Norse at 500, and Chaos Dwarves there. Skaven down there at 459, and Snotlings at 447. So you've got a real good clump there. But the interesting thing here is that the teams that are legacy teams, okay, the teams that are from the teams of legend, High Elves up here, Chaos Dwarf here, Norse here, Amazon here, okay, some of the most played or most winningest teams are teams of legend. And that is really intriguing, okay? So we've got Underworld, they're doing their own thing, hack Fleming around and just kind of enjoying the new format, shall we say. And you've got Chaos Dwarves and Norse, and Amazons and High Elves. None of these teams have got teams from Games Workshop, but we've seen just the fact that their playstyle allows them to do well in this meta means that they are performing. Norse did really well, okay? And they can take Griff. That makes them pretty tasty. Chaos Dwarves do pretty well. They can also take Hackflem. And that's the crazy thing, is a Chorf team with Hackflem and Morg is possible in a 1200 kind of TV tournament. Most often you'll see full-on Chaos Dwarf with Hackflem instead, because it just absolutely boosts up what they're missing and it gets a really interesting balance point. Amazons again, High Elves, and you've got Tomb Kings sitting down here. So vampires are creeping up, alright? Last month we got to talk about how they performed at Thud Bowl, and they went 9-0. Okay, so there's more to vampires than it seems, but this is where our teams of legend are sitting. So when it comes to the next bits, we've got Slann here, and we've got Demons of Khorne here. So Slann, unique challenge, good agility, not as good as they used to be. They're sitting at 50% win rate, I think, 54%, something like that. What is it? 53% win rate, 166 games. So they're kind of in the same bracket as High Elves. High Elves are just doing it more for more. Slann, though, 80 wins, 90 wins, is actually not that far off Elven Union. It's not that far off Wood Elves. So we've got Slann performing all right, and Demons of Khorne, though, doing a garbage job at 43%. And that brings us on to talking about the Demons of Khorne team. I don't know if it will exist in 2 months' time. The Khorne team that is landing is very similar in a lot of ways to the Demons of Khorne team. I hope that we're fine having them both, and it just allows more angles of frenzy. Then we can have Demons of Khorne versus Mortals of Khorne. It'll be really good fun. But I think the new Khorne team is better than the Demons of Khorne team. I feel like it's going to be slightly more consistent. So we probably see this one landing, maybe round about here, okay? And that's going to be fine. Other things to watch out here, Elf Union and Wood Elves. Absolutely really low on the end of the win percentage versus games played. Wood Elves, I've only played 16 more tournament games than Vampires. Okay, Old World Alliance, 20 games behind Wood Elves. Slann, nearly as popular as Wood Elves. There's a big pickup for some of you players who've been following Blood Bowl for a while. So we're seeing a lot of interesting stats here. That Nurgle, more games have been played with Nurgle than Wood Elves. That's huge. Then won as many games, which is unsurprising. Chaos Chosen down there at 46% is a bit of a surprise, given that they can take Hackflem now. But I wonder if it's just the most Chaos Chosen players are like, no, I won't take Hackflem, I'll smash things. And you know what? 46% of the time, it works every time. Now, the last thing we need to look at and talk about is the Goblin team. So, what's wrong with Kevin? Goblins, 37% win rate, 465. In the old edition, that was probably fine. That was the bottom end, and that was realistically Halflings. Okay, Halflings and Ogres were two of the lowest scoring teams. Goblins used to be great. They've taken a hit. They've lost their cheap star players. They've kind of lost that angle, and they're being forced to play Blood Bowl. I am intrigued to see how we get Goblins up there. I don't know. They've got 465 games. People love Goblins. I think they just need a little bit of extra star player support. I was kind of hoping we'd get some kind of star player release soon to fill out some of the star players, but actually if our next release is going to be Spike 13, we're realistically not going to see anything else for Blood Bowl until February or March next year. So Goblins are going to have a tough 6 months with very little support. They suffer in a tackle it's not really a tackle-heavy environment, but it is a tackle-incentivized environment, okay? They will just get incidental loss, and they have a little bit less of like an agility angle when it comes to running them. And the fact that halflings are cheap enough to take Morg and Griff, or Morg and Carla, whereas goblins are going to struggle with that. I mean, Varag is cool, but he's just not great. So it does limit the ability to kind of juice up the team. So I think goblins are being left a little bit behind. It breaks my heart a bit because they are one of the toughest stunty. If you're playing stunty versus stunty in a world where there's not a lot of star players, goblins as a core team do really well. Their armor's good, their strength is good, their speed is good. They do good stuff. They've got some cool positionals. It's just that in the world here where you've got this cheap stuff, they're just sitting in the opposite end of the bubble here from Denizens. And let's ignore the Hackflem shenanigans. Let's ignore goblins. The pack is pretty tight. We've got Black Orc and High Elf. All right, Black Orc 44%, High Elf 56, Demons at 43, Dwarves at 55. It's a 10% game for most of these teams, and that is something that I think is really cool to see. All right, I think I've waffled on about NAF stats enough, and clearly the sun is trying to melt me now, so apologies for the varying level of lighting. It's been fun. Anyway, it's so cool to see the grouping. Mike Davis has done a great job. I've got the link below. Please go and have a look at the data set. Now, what we can pull away from it is Underworld is doing really good. Goblins, not doing so good. If you want to go to a tournament and win, you've got to either buy into the Underworld shenanigans, or you've got to take tackle to face against it. Or you can just ignore everything, play High Elves, and do your own thing. And actually, that's a ton of different angles. But the most important thing here in this meta right now is that any team can win any event. Vampires did it. Goblins can do it. So go out there, take goblins to a tournament, and get some wins for the little greenskins. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of this meta, what you think's going on, and if there's anything else you want us to cover or take a bit of a deep dive into. But for now, I'm going to disappear. Thank you ever so much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content. We get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.